Am I, F, almost 22, being too clingy, or is my boyfriend, 30M, being too distant?
Okay, so my boyfriend and I first got together 3 months ago. We met at work because we work in the same office but in different departments. Only a few of our coworkers know about it, and they know to keep it a secret. We make sure to actively avoid each other at the office so it doesn't cause any drama. He was interested in me at first, and I turned him down, but after he went out of his way to show me how thoughtful and sweet he was, I agreed to a date, and things quickly went from there. I'd only dated one person before him, but that was only 2 dates, and things never really went anywhere, thankfully, because he was a total douchebag. He's been in a few LTRs before me and even had a fiancée at one point. They broke up because she cheated on him. For about the first month and a half of us dating, he was very attentive and communicative. We'd be texting almost all the time, and even though we both had busy work schedules, we'd usually go out or hang out at his place at least twice a week. He even got me a drawer at his place about 2 weeks after we began dating so I'd have a place to put my pajamas and things. He was very clearly interested in me, and honestly, one of my concerns when first getting into the relationship was that I may feel smothered at some point and would need to sit him down to let him know that I needed some space. Honestly, I wish that was my concern because trying to get his attention nowadays feels like pulling teeth. He used to be really sweet to me and flirt with me a lot through text, and now the most I'm able to get out of him is the occasional Han. When we were first seeing each other, he would invite me over and invite me out and would express excitement towards seeing me. Now, I'm usually the one who has to initiate the plans, and he'll usually respond like, yeah, we can do that, or, let me check my calendar. Like, damn, do you even want to see me? I'm asking to spend time with my boyfriend, not squeezing in a fucking business meeting. It makes me feel like an obligation, which I really hate. Even though my boyfriend and I usually only see each other about once a week nowadays, he joked with me one day, calling me clingy. I got really upset with him about it and kind of bitched him out for it. He apologized, saying it was a joke and he didn't mean it like that, but I feel like he wouldn't have made it if there wasn't a hint of truth to it. Communication is minimal nowadays, and what I do get is lackluster. We used to text continuously, having the most interesting and intellectually engaging conversations, some sweet, some sexy, you know the drill. He's on vacation right now, and a few days ago, he texted me a good morning text around 10 a.m., and when I responded back, he kept me on read until midnight, when he finally replied back saying, hey, sorry, I was doing so and so all day. It only takes a few seconds to shoot a text saying you won't be on your phone for the rest of the day. I would have preferred that to feel like I was being blown off by my boyfriend for the entire day. I feel like if he actually cared, he would have taken that into consideration. Also, I texted him asking for him to call me because I missed him after he was gone for about a week, and he just replied, yeah, I get it, can I call you tonight? Then, when we talked on the phone later on that night I said, I miss you, a few times and didn't say it back. I get that maybe it takes longer than that amount of time for some people to miss others, but when we were first dating, he once said, miss you, to me when we'd just seen each other the day previous. I don't get it. We're still physically involved when we do hang out, and what we do together is good, but there really isn't any build-up or tease anymore. He doesn't compliment me, and we don't sext. It kind of makes me feel like friends with benefits in a way, except friends with benefits probably are more excited about seeing each other, at least. He doesn't really open up to me emotionally anymore. He used to talk to me about things that are bothering him or things that are going on personally, and he doesn't really actively bring those things up anymore. I want to be there for him, but it's hard to do so when he won't let me. I really hope that this post doesn't paint him out to be a bad guy because he's really not. In fact, he's an incredible guy, which is why I'm with him. He's charitable and sweet, has a great love for his family and friends, and he's smart and funny. He always listens to me when I'm stressed or upset and apologizes when he messes up. And it's not like he's ashamed to be with me or anything. He introduces me to his friends as his girlfriend. Even though he has a lot of female friends, I don't think he'd cheat on me. He actually hadn't been sexually involved with anyone for about 2 years before seeing me, so I know he doesn't give in to urges and temptation like some people do. It just makes me wonder why he's acting like this. I've mentioned to him as being distant before, and he just tells me that he's sorry and that he hasn't noticed he's acting like that, then brings up 1 or 2 very temporary things that have been on his mind. I'd understand it if it had just happened for 2 weeks, but it keeps happening and is getting worse. I want to talk to him about this because I really want things to work out between us, and I don't want to end up resenting him over something that's fixable. I don't feel like I'm asking for too much. I just want to be a priority and to be shown affection. Am I just overanalyzing everything? If he were really losing interest in me, he would have just broken up with me already, right? I know that pretty much every response I'm going to get is going to say that I won't know until I ask him, but I don't know how to present this to him. Like I said earlier, when I do present problems in our relationship, he just apologizes and apologizes. I don't say these things to guilt trip him or to make me feel superior to him. I just want our relationship to be healthy, and how are we supposed to do that if I don't communicate what I'm feeling? I'm going to be seeing him on Saturday, so I think I'm going to need to sit him down for a very serious face-to-face talk. I'm just not sure exactly what to say. Any advice or perspective would be much appreciated. Update, I couldn't wait until Saturday. On Tuesday, I asked him when he was flying back in from vacation, and he told me he was flying in around 12:30 a.m. on Thursday, so I told him I wanted to come over to his house after work that day, today, to talk. He apparently had plans with another coworker of ours, which I was salty about because I figured that he would want to see his girlfriend, of all people, after being gone for 2 weeks, but he blew them off because it sounded important. So I went over to his house tonight with a box of his things and gave him the spiel. I said pretty much everything I said in my post, then basically laid it down too. If you're not into me anymore, I'd understand, but please just break up with me so we can find people who are better suited to us, and if you are into me still, then you need to show it. The entire time, he nodded his head and looked very understanding. Once I was done talking, he admitted that he had indeed been distant for the past month and a half, particularly the past 3 weeks. He then explained that the reason for this is because he realized that we have very different aspirations for the future, and he has been racking his brain and talking to everyone, trying to find a way to make it work. I asked him what he wanted that I didn't, and he said, kids. He wants kids within the next couple of years. He said he thinks he'd make a really great dad, and he knows that I'm young and that's not something that I want, and even if it is, it wouldn't be something that I would want within the next couple of years. He told me that it was killing him inside that he couldn't think of a compromise that could work for us to be together because he loves me, the first time he's ever told me that, and the last. He said he didn't want to continue on in our relationship, hanging on to maybes only for us to end up resenting each other or pressuring each other into things we don't want. I let him know that I'm still growing and my thoughts on it could still change, and that right now, my main reservation with children is actual pregnancy, and I could possibly see myself adopting. He shook his head and said he wanted children of his own. He's right. We cried in each other's arms, collected my things, and discussed our boundaries at the office. I let him know that I didn't regret our relationship and that I was so thankful for all of the good that we had together. I thanked him for being so good to me and for showing me the way that I deserve to be treated in a relationship, before the emotional distancing, of course. He then told me that he was honored to be my first boyfriend as he understood how big of a step that was for me to take and said that I'm the best girlfriend he's ever had and I've shown his love more than anyone he has ever dated before, including his ex-fiancée. He said that he felt for a long time that he didn't deserve love, and I showed him that he did. We agreed that we were going to keep all of the gifts that we'd given to each other and that we needed some time apart to grieve but that we would still be friends and that we wished the best for each other in finding people who have the same aspirations for the future. He then walked me to my car for the last time. Fuck, this sucks. Edit. Thank you, everyone, for your kind words of support. I'm still hurting, and I have spent a lot of time crying. And I'm sure I will for a while, but I will heal with time. The day after the breakup, I tried to avoid him at the office, but the few times I saw him on accident, I could tell he was hurting. It hurts me to see him hurt. I have not spoken to him since and will not do so for quite a while, as I don't want to reopen the wound. I also deleted WhatsApp from my phone, as that was what we used to message each other, and I am trying to break the habit of consistently checking my phone to hear from him. Due to some of my current life circumstances, many aspects of my life have been based on things that would make me happy while still being feasible/convenient for other people in my life, mainly my mother, not necessarily what I truly want for myself. Before my former, I choose to refer to him as my former as opposed to my ex because I think ex just sounds too harsh and has a negative connotation. I never would have thought marriage would be something that I'd want for myself. Now that I've been shown what a good relationship is like and what it feels like to love and be loved in return, I would really like to be married. Since I'd previously never even thought I wanted marriage, this is why I'd never really prioritized whether or not I wanted children. I have a bad habit of focusing on my present instead of my future. I have decided that for the next few months, probably closer to half a year, I'm going to make a point of prioritizing what I want for my future long term in regard to what I think would make me happy. I'm going to start reflecting on whether having children is something I think could be a fulfilling part of my life and if it would make me happy. I'm honestly not sure what children are like. My friends/close family don't have children, so I never really spend time with any, which is another reason I haven't thought about it much, so I may see if I can find some opportunities to babysit or spend time with children in some other way to see if I like them and if I could see myself caring for one long term. I think it's something I need to do to avoid this kind of heartbreak in the future. And if I do decide that I'd like to have children on the same timeline as my former does, and it just so happens that my former is still single and still wants to build a future with me, then I'll see if he wants to pick up where we left off. But if it turns out that I just don't want kids or I know I'm not going to be sure for a while, then I will hope someone with just as much love to give comes into my life who feels the same. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Found out my wife was having an affair with my gym buddy. I kicked her out of my house. My wife and I have been married for 6 years. We met at work and instantly connected. As employees, we were discouraged from dating others in the office. So, I spent all of my time trying to make her laugh and joking with her about the other people around us. Eventually, I found a new job at a great place, and on my last day in the office I asked her out. She said yes and we fell in love. We got married after about 1.5 years of being together and it was one of the best decisions of our lives. The pandemic happened early on in our marriage, and at first it was causing some stress. We had been used to being away from each other during the work days and only really seeing each other on weekends and evenings. It isn't that we didn't love each other, but we both had our own time for ourselves. The pandemic really got both of us thinking about our health. We were both relatively healthy, we ate well for the most part, and before the pandemic, we got most of our exercise from running around our respective offices. However, with the pandemic, we were very sedentary and both of us were putting on a little bit of weight. When things started to clear up, we both decided that we wanted to get a gym membership. We went together, and we had a good time focusing on this new lifestyle. On top of that, we both really loved exercising and we could see the benefits of it fairly quickly. We started going to the gym together 3 or 4 times a week. The more we went, the more confident we were. Our membership was at a local place owned by someone we knew. So we recognized a lot of the people at the gym. There was a sense of community there that we liked. One day while we were driving back from the gym, my wife asked me who my gym crush was. I was taken aback by the question because it seemed like a weird thing for her to ask. She assured me that she wasn't going to take it the wrong way, but she'd seen me paying attention to some of the other girls in the gym and she was just curious. In fact, she promised to tell me hers. I thought about it for a moment, and I realized that I was confident enough in our relationship to have that conversation with her. Of course, neither of us was the only person we were attracted to. We are both human after all. As long as neither of us acted on those impulses, we were fine. I told her who mine was. We'll call her Heather. Heather went to the gym with her fiancé and we crossed paths with both of them often. My wife confessed that her crush was Heather's fiancé. We'll call him Joe. We teased each other about it after we confessed, but it was never really something that came up again. Several months later, I was playing basketball with some friends from the neighborhood and I landed very badly and tore a ligament in my knee. I had to go through some physical therapy alongside months of rest. During those months, I wasn't able to go to the gym with my wife. She was still going, which I had no issues with whatsoever. She had been very passionate about her fitness and activity after the fact, so I was happy she was still doing it. I just wished that I could have gone with her. After the injury, I found myself in a depressive episode. I was trapped in my house for the majority of my time and I was feeling isolated and alone, so I took up some bad habits. I put on a little bit of weight and some of the muscle tone that I had earned over the months of going to the gym disappeared. It didn't help my depression that I could see it happening and felt helpless to stop it. I complained about the issues I was having with my body to my wife often and she did what she could to assure me that it wasn't an issue and she would love me no matter what. However, her actions spoke differently. It seemed like she didn't want to be around me as much. She had been laid off during the pandemic and still wasn't working. But she was out all the time running errands. On top of that, we weren't having sex. I took it as her not being attracted to me, but I didn't want to go to her and ask about that. I think a big part of me was too afraid to hear the truth. She started going to the gym more and more and I started to realize that she was going 5 or 6 times a week, which was more than we had ever really gone. It definitely seemed like she just wanted to get away from me. Months passed and I was done with my rest and going to physical therapy to try and get everything back to normal. When I was finally cleared to be off crutches and able to begin light exercise again, I jumped at the opportunity. My wife gladly brought me back to the gym and everybody else there seemed happy that I was back. I was friendly with just about everybody at the gym. That included Heather and Joe. My first week back, everybody, including Heather, came over to me and asked me all about my recovery and how I was feeling. I didn't notice it at the time, but Joe was steering clear of me. Looking back, after I returned to the gym he and I hadn't had a single conversation with each other. I couldn't remember him talking to my wife either. Because I was still recovering, I wasn't able to go to the gym very often. I had to take it easy and make sure I was giving myself time to recuperate. I was going to the gym every other day for the most part. My wife kept going at her normal pace. I was working from home, so thankfully I was able to step out and take walks or things like that whenever I wanted to, as long as I was getting my work done. My wife told me one morning that she was going to the gym in the afternoon. It was one of my resting days, so I hadn't planned on going with her. Around lunchtime I was feeling fidgety, like I had a lot of energy that I needed to get rid of. I figured I could take an hour and go cycle or walk on the treadmill. So, I made my way over. My wife told me she was going to be there, so I was expecting to see her inside when I arrived. I looked around for her and she was nowhere to be seen. I asked the woman at the front desk if she saw my wife, but she told me that she didn't think she'd come in yet that day. I was worried right away. I trusted my wife and when she told me she was going to the gym, I believed her. If she wasn't there and she wasn't at home, she was somewhere between our house and the gym and somehow she didn't make it there. My mind wandered to the worst case scenarios, so I rushed back to my car and slowly made the drive home to see if I could spot anything. I didn't see her car in a ditch or anything like that, which eased my mind. I called her when I got back to see where she was, but she didn't answer. I felt completely helpless. In my mind, my wife was being held captive in someone's basement and there was nothing I could do about it. I waited for about an hour, and then she walked in the front door. She was still in her workout clothes as if she had gone to the gym when I knew that she hadn't. I asked her where she was and she told me she was at the gym. Obviously, I knew that she was lying, I just didn't know why. I explained the situation to her and told her that I didn't see her at the gym and I was worried. She played it off like she didn't understand why the worker said I wasn't there, suggesting that there might have been a shift change while she was there. She told me that she was in the sauna for a while, which might explain why I didn't see her there. The excuses she gave made sense, but something was telling me not to believe them. I saw with my own eyes that she wasn't there. I was scouring around for her car and I didn't see it anywhere in the lot at the gym. My wife was lying to me and my paranoia started taking full control of my brain. Later that night while she was asleep, I took it upon myself to find out the truth of what was really happening. I grabbed her phone and looked through it for any clues about where she was. I found it within seconds of opening her phone. She was with Joe. Their messages were all pretty tame. There were a few messages where they would tell each other they missed each other, but for the most part, it was them planning times to get together. They were hooking up a few times a week. Apparently, Joe worked from home while Heather didn't, so whenever she would leave my wife would head over to their house. I was completely heartbroken by what I saw. Especially when I put the pieces together that their affair started while I was home recovering from my injury and feeling very bad about myself. It seemed like everything I thought about my relationship with my wife was wrong and it was devastating to learn that. I knew that I needed to divorce her, but while I looked over the text messages I didn't think it was sufficient evidence to prove that there was an affair. It seemed like there could be something going on, but there wasn't anything in there that explicitly mentioned they were having sex. I needed to see it for myself and get some kind of proof. I did a quick search online for some kind of app or something I could download on my wife's phone to be able to track her. It sounds awful, but I needed to know when she was actually going to the gym and when she was going to Joe's house. My intention was just to follow her there and make sure I could get the proof I needed. I found one and got it set up so next time she told me she was going to the gym I could be ready. After 2 days, my wife told me that she was going to the gym. I waited for about half an hour after she left and checked the app. She was not at the gym. I quickly finished up what I was doing with my work and I made my way over to the address she was at. I walked to the front door and looked at a piece of mail to see that it was Joe's house. My wife's car was in the driveway, so I knew that I was going to be possibly witnessing one of the worst things I could imagine. I realized that I couldn't get into the house, so that posed a bit of a problem for me. I needed to see what was happening, so I did something a little bit illegal. I opened an electric bill belonging to Heather and I got her phone number from that. I called her and explained everything. She was skeptical at first, but she agreed to head right over to see for herself if I was right about everything. I hid the electric bill in my car so they would never know that I had to open it to contact her and I waited for her to arrive. As soon as I saw her, I walked to the door with her. When she opened the front door, the chain lock was up that immediately made her suspicious. That was never up, so she thought it was him trying to keep her out of the house. We snuck around to the back door and she let us both in through there. When we got in, we could hear music playing from the bedroom and I had a sinking feeling in my stomach. All of the signs pointed to my wife having an affair, but there was still part of me that had the slightest bit of hope that I was misreading things. Of course, that wasn't the case. Heather led me to the bedroom where she opened the door to see my wife and Joe together. They were both surprised to see us there. Heather ran up to Joe and started hitting him on the head with her purse. I couldn't blame her for reacting that way. My wife covered herself as quickly as she could and tried to explain herself to me. She told me that it just happened while they were at the gym. She tried to tell me it was the first time anything like that had happened and she regretted it. I told her that I knew she was lying and there wasn't any point and to expect to get divorced. She still hadn't found a job since being laid off from hers during the pandemic. She had gotten quite comfortable with not working, which had been a point of contention in our relationship in the past, but I made enough for us to still live comfortably. She tried to convince me to change my mind about it, right there while we were standing in the doorway of the room she was just cheating on me in. I told her that my mind was made up and I was going through with it. She was angry about that and as I was walking away, she told me that she wasn't attracted to me anyway and that I could never really satisfy her. I knew the second part was a lie, but the first part of what she said stung. I had my insecurities about how I looked after the injury and hearing somebody who was supposed to love you say it wasn't a blast. Heather and I both ended up divorcing our partners and we wrote letters to each other's divorce attorneys explaining everything that happened since we didn't have any photographic evidence. I kicked my wife out of my house and she ended up moving in with Joe. They were apparently in love with each other and planned on spending the rest of their lives together. They both got married a few months after the divorces were finalized, which I know now that they regret because they're in the process of divorcing. Heather and I talk to each other on occasion and we laugh about how dumb of a decision it was for them to remarry so quickly. From everything I gathered, Joe ended up cheating on my ex-wife with another woman from the gym. That's what sparked their divorce. I'm happy knowing that my ex-wife was forced to get a job and spend a good portion of her earnings paying for 2 separate divorce attorneys.